What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on the Philistnick YouTube channel. And in today's video, I'll be going through my Round 10 AFL 2023 tips and predictions. And obviously, as well as that, like we always do, I'm going to be going back over my Round 9 tips from last week and seeing how I went. If you guys go on to enjoy today's video, it would really mean a lot if you could please leave a like, share, and subscribe. That would be much appreciated. I'm trying to hit 500 subs as soon as possible, so yeah, a like and sub would be really much appreciated. So if you haven't clicked the big red subscribe button down below yet, then now is your time to do so. Also, if you want to join my tipping comp, it will be down below in the description and in the pinned comment. And I'll also put the code to join down below as well. But anyways, guys, without further ado, let's get straight on reviewing my Round 9 tips from last week. So looking back on my Round 9 tips from last week, I got a score of 6 out of 9 for round number 9. Look, I've said it before, this is pretty much my typical score so far this year. I think I've got the same score, 6 out of 9, for at least 3 weeks. Not in a row, but just throughout this season. I think I've gotten it at least 3 times. So we'll quickly go back over the games that happened last week, starting off on the Friday night. It was between Richmond and Geelong. Obviously, I'm very happy about this one as a Tigers fan. You know, we got the job done over the Cats. And is the season still alive for Richmond? I think after that, I'd have to say yes, which I'm very happy to say because I was very worried after the Gold Coast game that our season could be done already. But yeah, even though I was a Tigers fan, I didn't actually tip Richmond in this. I didn't have enough faith or enough bias in me to tip Richmond. I probably should have in the end. Because the Tigers got the job done there by 24 points, so got that tip incorrect. And then moving over now to the other Friday night match between Gold Coast and West Coast. Pretty easy one, this one. Gold Coast got the job done here convincingly, so yeah, got that tip correct. And then moving down now to the SCG, I tipped Sydney to beat Freo. That stings a little bit. The Dockers starting to find some form as well. You know, a bit similar to Richmond. You know, their season looked over, within the first couple of weeks as well. But as of late, the Dockers, they've really come alive again this season. You know, very similar to Richmond, like I said. And they got a great win there over the Swans. So yeah, got that tip incorrect, so that stings a little bit. And then moving over to Blundstone Arena, I tipped Port Adelaide to beat North Melbourne in that game. There in Tassie, and no problems there again. Port Adelaide, just the much stronger and classier side than North Melbourne, obviously. Yeah, got that tip correct. And then moving down now to the MCG for one of the more strange matches of the round. We had Melbourne taking on Hawthorn, and of course I tipped Melbourne in this match, and they got the job done. There ultimately, Hawthorn had some moments in this match. Yeah, the D's are far too strong for the Hawks there, so got that tip correct. And then moving down now to the Gabba, I tipped the Lions to beat the Bombers. No problems there. I think Essendon were in it at quarter time, and then after that, the Lions just completely took control of the match and really got the game on their terms. So yeah, got that tip correct there. And then moving down now to Marvel Stadium, I tipped the Blues to beat the Dogs, and that really cost me because if I had tipped the Dogs, I would have got 7 out of 9. Ultimately, the Dogs were just the stronger side on the night, and they were able to prevail by 20 points. So, yeah, got that tip incorrect. That's another one that really stings. And then the last 2 matches of the round I got correct. I tipped Adelaide to beat St Kilda. Got that tip correct there. And yeah, the Crows, they are flying at the moment. They have just knocked off St Kilda, who are one of the hardest teams to score against so far this season, and they made it look easy, scoring 121 points on a side who didn't really concede more than 60 points a game. So they are really starting to show what they can do at the moment, the Crows. They are on absolute fire. So yeah, got that tip correct. Obviously, the last game of the round, I tipped Collingwood to beat GWS, and then obviously, yeah, no problems there. The Giants didn't ever really look in it, to be honest. You know, you always knew Collingwood. As soon as they poured on their 5 or 6 goals, the Giants were no chance to come back into that match. And so, yeah, got that tip correct. So, like I said, I got a score of 6 out of 9 this week. Look, like I said, hoping to do better, but yeah, it's a pretty solid score, so I guess I'll take it. Now, let's move on to my round 10 tips. Alrighty, so here we are, ladies and gentlemen, round number 10. So we kick things off on the Friday night, and it's an absolute blockbuster, it's fair to say. This is a huge clash here at the Adelaide Oval on the Friday night. It is between Port Adelaide and Melbourne at the Adelaide Oval on Friday night at 7:50 bounce down time. Now, this is a top 4 clash if you've ever seen it. Port Adelaide, they are currently on a 6-game winning streak after their win last week over North Melbourne. However, Melbourne, like I've said, they've just been going about their business. They've been getting win after win, albeit it's not always convincing at times. They find multiple ways to win, whether it's grit or just pure dominance. They just find a way to win Melbourne no matter what, which I really respect about them because it shows how good of a side they actually are. However, I think this will probably be Melbourne's trickiest game so far this year, in my opinion. I think this will be their hardest game so far this year. Port Adelaide in Adelaide is not an easy task at all so far this year. Look, I could actually see Port Adelaide getting a big statement here and getting a big win over another genuine contender in the Ds. However, I think the Ds are just going a little bit better at the moment, and I think they're just the stronger side. And I think they do actually have the wood over Port Adelaide as of recent times. So I am going to be tipping the Ds in this one. I think they're just going to be a little bit too strong. I could definitely see Port Adelaide winning though, so I wouldn't rule them out of it. But I think the Ds are going to win this one in a bit of a close game. I'm going to say the Ds win this one by 14 points. Moving down now to Marvel Stadium, and we've got North Melbourne taking on Sydney to kick off the Saturday matches. Now, look, it's fair to say North Melbourne are in an absolute hole at the moment. They are just getting rinsed every week at the moment. Even under Alistair Clarkson, they're just showing no competitiveness. It's so frustrating. Like, I actually do want to see North do well this season, or do somewhat, or be at least better than what they've been the previous season. So far, they're still on the same amount of wins that they had last year. They had 2 wins last year as well. They started so well. They won their first 2 matches, but since then it's been all downhill. I think they've lost about 7 in a row now. So yeah, they're on a massive losing streak at the moment, North Melbourne. They really need to break. Whereas Sydney, you could arguably say the same for them. I mean, Sydney, they've fallen into a bit of a rabbit hole as of late. The Swans, they're really in some strife at the moment, the Swans, and it's almost unnatural to see the Swans this low because, they've been such a successful side the last few seasons. I definitely think this will be a close-ish game, but I think the Swans should be too strong here for the Roos, and they should get the job done here. The Swans somewhat comfortably. I'm tipping the Swans to bounce back this week, and they'll get a pretty good win here over a lower-rated North Melbourne side by 29 points. Moving down now to Mars Stadium, we've got probably one of the most interesting matches of the entire round. We've got the Bulldogs taking on the Crows in Ballarat. Obviously, the Dogs, like I said, they've been in terrific form as of late. They have just knocked off the Blues in a big win for their season, the Dogs, to really open up the doors of finishing in the top 8 this season. Where's the Crows? I had big raps on the Crows going into this year, and right now it is paying off. I didn't have them in the 8. I didn't have the balls to put them in the 8 at the start of the year. But right now, you'd be silly not to have them in the 8 the way they're playing. They've just smashed St Kilda. I think it was by 50-odd points. This is a real winnable game here for both these sides. I think the winner of this match probably plays finals, in my opinion. I don't want to go early because a lot can change in a number of weeks. But I think whoever wins this could potentially be on their way to a final spot this year. And I'm feeling bold. I'm trusting Adelaide with my tip here. So I'm actually going to back Adelaide to win this match. I have been backing in the Crows the last couple of weeks, and it's really been paying off for me. They've been unlucky in a couple of matches they've played this year, the Crows. The Collingwood game, they really should have won that. They could have arguably beaten GWS and Richmond earlier on in the year as well. And I think the Crows' best footy right now has been almost top 4 worthy. At its very best. You saw last week, they completely ripped St Kilda's defence apart, who have been really good at defending all year, the Saints, and the Crows just made them look second rate. I am confident that the Crows can win this match. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dogs win this one, but I'm going to be tipping the Crows here in a bit of an upset. I'm going to say the Crows win this one in a bit of a close game. The Crows win this one by 6 points. Moving down now to Optus Stadium, and we have got Fremantle taking on Geelong. If you had asked me who would win this game about a month ago, I probably would have said Geelong every day of the week. But right now, Freo are finding a little bit of form, and they are finding form at the right time. It's fair to say, they actually looked pretty good against Sydney, I'm going to be honest. the Dockers. You know, their forward line finally started to find some form with the likes of Josh Tracy and Jai Amos. Really shining for the Dockers up forward, along with the likes of Lockie Schultz, who's always a very consistent contributor week in, week out. Where's the Cats? They were a little bit, I guess they were undermanned against Richmond. I know they had a lot of injuries, but to be honest, they still didn't look great when they did come up against Richmond on Friday night. They just looked completely outclassed. They didn't really look hungry to win that game, to be honest. And they pretty much just let Richmond in it all day. So, yeah, I'm expecting a big response out of Geelong this week. I'm not sure if they've got any injuries back or not. If they have, that's a huge boost for them. But right now, I think I'm going to tip the Cats. Like I said, I just trust them a little bit more with my tips. So, yeah, I'm going to be tipping Geelong to beat the Dockers here in this match. I just think, you know, like I said, they're the more trustworthy side. And I think Geelong will win this match. Again, in a bit of a close affair, I think Geelong will win this one only by 16 points. Moving down now to the Gabba, and we have got the Q clash between Brisbane and the Suns. Now, I'm not sure why this is so one-sided. I guess because it's at the Gabba, that probably makes it, you know, it's obviously a contributing factor when you're playing Brisbane. You know, they're very, very hard to beat at the Gabba. But I think the way Gold Coast are going at the moment, they probably deserve more than 2%, if I'm going to be honest. They've actually been playing some really good footy as of late, the Suns. Ever since the Richmond game at Marvel Stadium, they have found some really good form, the Suns, and it's been really good to see. And the Lions as well, they've obviously been on a massive win streak. Along with Port Adelaide, I think they've had the longest winning streak out of all the teams. I think they're also on about 6 wins in a row, maybe even 7. But like I said, because it's at the Gabba, it's very hard to go past Brisbane in this match. So I am going to be tipping the Lions in this match. I just think they'll just be too strong, I think, for the Suns. I did say Brisbane would probably go undefeated at the Gabba this year, and the way they're going, they probably look very likely to do that. They did just knock off the Bombers pretty comfortably last week, and I think Brisbane, they'll win this match here in a somewhat seesawing affair, but I think the Lions will win this one by 22 points. Moving down now to the MCG, and another absolute blockbuster here. We've got Essendon taking on Richmond in the classic Dreamtime match at the MCG. Massive game of footy here in this one. Obviously, the Bombers are not in the best of form at the moment. You know, they've obviously had a really tough couple of weeks, the Bombers. They've had some really tough opponents. Obviously, they had Brisbane at the Gabba last week. They had Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. That's always going to be tough. But this has turned into a massive must-win clash for both these sides. Richmond, like I said, got back on the winners list, or have been getting back on the winners list as of the last 2 weeks. Yeah, it's been really good to see, obviously, as a Tigers fan, to see us, you know, sort of get back to the way we were playing last year. You know, just that freestyle chaos footy that we've been known for playing for so long now. It was on display on Friday night against the Cats. I'm going to be tipping the Tigers to win this match. I just think, you know, we've got the wood over Essendon. You know, Essendon have not been in great form. I think this will be an absolutely ripping contest, though. Don't get me wrong. I think Essendon will really take it up to us in this match. You know, they will probably realise here, the Bombers, that this is a must-win for their season. Obviously, of the last few weeks, they haven't been getting the results that they want. And I think we'll beat the Bombers here in a bit of a close game as well at Dreamtime. I think the Tigers will win this one by 13 points. Moving down now to the Sunday matches, and to kick it off, we've got pretty much the Harley Reid sort of cup here between Hawthorn and West Coast. It's pretty much the battle for the wooden spoon match, be fair to say here in this one. Hawthorn have probably looked the more convincing of the two sides so far this year. Hawthorn have actually shown signs of being a half-decent side, whereas West Coast just look like a VFL side, to be honest. But I think just because it's at UTAS Stadium, I think Hawthorn, but then again, I think if West Coast are actually going to get a win this year, this is probably one of their best opportunities to get another win this season, West Coast. So, I'm really not sure who to go for here. I know it is at UTAS and Hawthorn do play well there, but I just feel like West Coast, they might actually take their opportunity here and actually try and get a result here. But I am going to tip the Hawks in this one. I just think because they've been the more competitive side of the two. I just think Hawthorn, especially because it's at UTAS, if it was at Optus, I would almost lean on West Coast. But yeah, I think these two sides are pretty well matched, to be honest. Obviously, it's the battle of the two wooden spoon contending sides, it's fair to say. But I think Hawthorn win this match at a very close one. I think the Hawks will win this one by 7 points. Moving down now to the MCG, and we've got Carlton taking on Collingwood. And geez, the Blues, they are in hot water at the moment, the Blues. They are all over the media. If you go on YouTube and you're an AFL fan, you will see nothing but Carlton getting rinsed by commentators, journalists, like all those people, on Fox Footy, just absolutely rinsing the Blues at the moment. And it's really bad to see, to be honest, especially if you're a Blues fan. You've sort of seen this story before. And, Collingwood, what can you say? They are just going about their business, Collingwood. They are absolutely flying. I've actually lost track of how many they've won in a row now, Collingwood. I think it's about 5 in a row. But yeah, something like that. But Collingwood, they're just on absolute fire at the moment. And as much as I don't like to tip Collingwood, especially against a team who I actually don't mind in the Blues, I think Collingwood just win this one, just because, they've been playing the much better footy of the two. But I think Collingwood, they're just the stronger side in this one. And I think, they've got the wood over the Blues as of late. So I think it'll be a close game, but I think Collingwood win this one by 12 points. And the final game of the round, we have got GWS taking on St Kilda. Now, it's fair to say both these sides were a little bit disappointing, it's fair to say, especially St Kilda. Obviously, we know the Saints have been very hard to score against so far this year, and I was really shocked how easily Adelaide walked in goals against their supposed really good defence. That was a bit shocking by my standards, the Saints. I didn't think they were going to win, but geez, they didn't really look that competitive, to be honest. And the Giants, well, I actually thought they were going half decently until last week against Collingwood. Obviously, it was against Collingwood, so it's not the worst loss in the world, but it was definitely a disappointing result for the Giants, boys, it's fair to say. They just got smashed around the ball, and their defence just got absolutely exposed. But I just think the Saints, they are the stronger side, and I think they will want a big response after they got pretty much exposed against Adelaide last week. And I reckon the Saints, they'll win this one here by 20 points. Those were my round 10 tips, ladies and gentlemen. Let's quit. I've tipped the Saints to beat the Giants here at Giants Stadium. I think the Saints should be fine in that one. I've tipped Collingwood to beat the Blues. I've tipped Hawthorn to beat West Coast. I've tipped Richmond to beat Essendon at Dreamtime. I've tipped Brisbane to beat Gold Coast in the Q Clash. I've tipped Geelong to beat Freo at Optus Stadium. My upset of the week, I have tipped Adelaide to beat the Bulldogs at Mars Stadium. I think that one could go either way, though, to be honest. And then I've tipped Sydney over North Melbourne. Sydney should be fine in that one. And then I've tipped Melbourne over Port Adelaide on Friday night at the Adelaide Oval by 14 points. So those were my round 10 tips, ladies and gentlemen. But before we go, as always, remember, if you haven't already, I think I said it in the intro, but remember to join my tipping comp. So this is my tipping comp here, Fearless Nick Comp. So remember to join my tipping comp if you haven't already. But this is the current ladder after 9 rounds. And so Marie T is currently in first. Like I said, shout out to you. Got a 7 this week and is on 59 correct tips. Same as Darcy T, who also got a 7 and is also on 59 correct tips. But obviously the margin was a bit further off than Marie, obviously. In third spot, we've got Max, who also got a 7, is on 56 correct tips. We've got Ben P in fourth, who got a 5 this week and is on 56 correct tips. We've got Shannon in fifth, who got a 7 this week as well and is also on 56 correct tips. We've got Christian in sixth, who got a 5 this week, is on 55 correct tips. We've got Shilos, who's in 7th at the moment, got a 7 and is on 55 correct tips as well. We've got Claudia in 8th, who's on 53 correct total tips and I got a 6 this week. In 9th, we've got Cooper L, who got a 6 this week as well and is also on 53 correct tips. I'm currently in 10th. I think I've moved up a spot. I can't remember from last week, but I think I've moved up a spot. Like I said, I got a 6 this week and I'm on 52 correct tips so far this year. Rick H, who I think's moved down a spot or two, is on, who got 5 correct tips this week, and he's on 52 correct tips for the year. We've got Hugo in 12th, who got 6 this week, and he's on 51 correct tips. And then down the bottom, as always at this rate, we've got Samuel D, who is in 13th, and he's on 48 correct tips, got a 6 this week. So yeah, good on you, Samuel. Hopefully you can get off the bottom soon, mate. So there we go, everyone. Those were my round 10 tips for the 2023 AFL season. Remember to comment down below your tips for this week down below in the comments. I'd love to hear your fellas' thoughts. Also, remember to join my tipping comp. It will be down below in the link in the description and also in the pinned comment. And the code to join will also be down below as well. So like I said, if you want to win a shout out, maybe even a sub at the end of the year from myself, then click the link down below in the description and you won't miss out. Remember to leave a like, share and subscribe if you did go on to enjoy today's video. It would really, really mean heaps. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!